Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world, one character at a time. And it all starts with one thing, a deep understanding of human motivation, why people do what they do, and the forces that drive them. To gain that understanding, I am mining the intersection of psychology, theology, and philosophy to make you a better writer. This is episode 98, Zettelkasten, an effortless card numbering system, part 2. Yesterday, I introduced the concept of a numbering system that is so simple that it really takes no thought at all. It is a system that is suitable for teaching to a youngster because it's so simple, and it's also very handy if you simply want to build a Zettelkasten and not have to worry about numbering, because the rules for the numbering system are just so simple that you really can't go wrong in terms of the numbering. And if you have a good quality index, it's as good a numbering system as any out there. So let me review where we left off, and I'm going to add a couple of things to it to cap this numbering system off at today. Okay, we began with the concept of, we would just declare topics. We had 2 in our example yesterday, jellyfish and dinosaurs, and every time we come up with another topic or a card, we'll say, oh, does it fit with jellyfish? Yes, no. Does it fit with dinosaurs? Yes, no. If it doesn't fit with either, it would be our topic 3. So we did some examples to show where you go after the number 1 or the number 2. And in that example, we took a case of jellyfish are 95% water, our first card. And it was our number 1 card because it was the first card about jellyfish. After that, we had a second card that talked about jellyfish layers. Let's go look at what we saw yesterday. This is the card that we looked at yesterday. Jellyfish don't have brains, hearts, or lungs. They have 3 layers. And since this is an extension of the concept of jellyfish, we grow our number and it becomes 1A. We're going to go number, letter, number, letter, number, letter, number, letter, just going back and forth between the 2. One of the big advantages of going back and forth between the 2 is that if we have more than 10 topics, or more than 9 topics actually, you just keep on numbering. This could just as easily be 137A if you had 137 different topics, because the number part and then the letter part. And if you had more than 26 subtopics here, why, you could go AA, and that would be completely valid because it's number, letter, number, letter. So you're never confused as to the component. So after the 1A, again, let's ignore this one for the moment. What we had yesterday was 1A1. We said, okay, the previous card 1A was about 3 layers. Well, this is the first of the 3rd layer. It's the outer layer is the epidermis, and then we had the middle layer is the jelly-like substance, and 1A3, the inner layer, is where they digest their food. And then we completed our work yesterday with jellyfish by adding one more card, 1A3A, where we talked about what jellyfish eat. So you can see every time you're going deeper, the number gets longer, and every time you have another variation, the digit gets larger. We also saw in our work yesterday, card 1B. Jellyfish have been around 500 million years. That's longer than the dinosaurs. So, and that was a 1B card because our 1A was about brains, hearts, or lungs. They were about how they were structured. So we were still on jellyfish, but we weren't talking about jellyfish organs anymore. Now we were talking about how long jellyfish have been around. So that's a variation, and so We go from A to B. Now, we saw yesterday that we had a directory card that started us off with our topics. The same way, you can also have a subdirectory card. If one has topics A and B, you can have a subdirectory card. 1A, jellyfish have 3 layers, and 1B would be jellyfish have been around a long time. So where it would physically go is right after card 1, because it's how card 1 is broken down. It's a colored card, which shows us that it is not really a part of the Zettelkasten. And because it isn't really a part of the Zettelkasten, it's totally fine for it to share the same number 1 as the card that it divides. Because one of our rules of the Zettelkasten is no 2 cards have the same number. Well, unless one of them isn't really a card. Then to continue that idea of dividers and directory cards, after we said that they had 3 layers, we saw that we had all 3 layers. So now you could just as easily make a directory card for the 3 layers, 1A1, 1A2, 1A3. And again, if you did that, what card number would it get? Yes, it would get 1A. The same as the card above it, because it's not really a part of the Zettelkasten, it's just a directory card. I should tell you that at this point in time that this type of card has a fancier name. I just call them directory cards, but they do have a more scientific sounding name. They're also called branch collectives. So if you hear that term, branch collectives, it's just a directory card. So now let's summarize where we got. We had one more card to look at in our review, and that was our card number 2, which introduced the dinosaurs. Even though it wasn't really about dinosaurs, it was about pterosaurs, where the card is saying they weren't really dinosaurs, they were flying reptiles. Well, I think most people think pterodactyls are flying dinosaurs, so I went ahead and put them under dinosaurs, although it's quite clear not dinosaurs in the card itself. So now let's take a look at what our Zettelkasten looks like if we are only looking at the numbers on the card. Here we can see that these colored cards are the directory cards that we made, and here we've simply abstracted just the card numbers. And you can see how this spread shows you how the card numbers are progressing. 1, 1A, 1A1, 1A2, 1A3, 1A3A. So you can see that these are starting to form a linear line, and then this is a branch compared to that, and each of these 3 are branches under this. So what we're really building here is a tree structure. If you look at it just a little bit longer, you'll probably see that this is actually a tree structure. Well, we got to 1A3A was our largest number that we saw. What if we needed to add another card that extended that went deeper on 1A3A? Say, for example, it started naming the kinds of other smaller jellyfish that a large jellyfish might eat. Well, then you'd be going deeper still. Well, here's where my practice is. Every time you've got 4 of these branches, number, letter, I break up the number by putting a dash in it. Here it is over here where you can see it better. And the only purpose of that dash is to make the card number easier to read. 1A3A-1. And in point of fact, okay, I'm a little bit out of order on my cards here. In point of fact, I actually have a card in my system whose number is 3B2A-3B4D-1E, and several others in the vicinity of the same length. So this system actually works even when you're building a rather mature Zettelkasten. I don't know if you've been able to see my Zettelkasten. It's in the background there. It's a pretty good sized Zettelkasten, and even I do have 3 entirely different numbering systems in my Zettelkasten, but actually the majority of the cards are this system right here. Okay, I'm going to come back and pick up a couple of topics. Remember where I said that these cards that are colored aren't really a part of your Zettelkasten? Well, it turns out to be a lot more obvious, the value of these cards, once you look at what they really look like in real life, or can look like in real life. If you use dividers, suddenly it makes a whole lot of sense. It becomes easier to see that, oh, these are not really a part of the Zettelkasten. They're just dividers separating off the Zettelkasten. Here in my Zettelkasten, you can see a whole bunch of these dividers. If I can get it in the picture. I've got a whole bunch of them, especially with this numbering system. Now, there's some advantages and some disadvantages to this numbering system, and I'm going to actually present more than one numbering system. This numbering system has the advantage that it is very, 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 very simple. And as long as you have an index and you keep your index up, this numbering system will work quite well. But in the next slide, I hope to show you why this numbering system might prove to be a little bit frustrating as you go along. We started out with jellyfish and then dinosaurs. Now let's assume that other interests come along. Perhaps this is a child's Zettelkasten, and it goes on from dinosaurs to horses and butterflies and birds and squids. Oh my. At some point in time, you might be starting to feel like, gosh, I wish squids could be closer to jellyfish. You know, they're both aquatic animals. They're both oceanic. They both got little wiggly legs, sort of. But here they are, 1 and 6, way far apart, because this system assumes that cards are dealt with one at a time as they come into the system. And that means you don't get any power of ordering. You get simplicity, total simplicity. If it's new, it gets a new number. If it extends an existing one, the number grows. Super, super simple, but you do lose the advantage of being able to put some order and some organization into this. Now, you can probably see, if I skim way back to the Scott Shepherd numbers, I'll just scroll way back up here. We've done a lot in 2 days. When you come back up here to these card numbers, you can see, you can get a guess at the advantage of starting out with 4 numbers in a row instead of with 1. And that's that you have some flexibility. So you can break these categories out and down, and that's going to give you much greater power of having your topics, similar topics, close together in your Zettelkasten. So if it starts to bother you that the things are just so far apart, this might be the numbering system for you. Or the other reason that you might want to switch to this one is if you start feeling that you just don't like letter number, it just bothers you in some way. This is predominantly numbers. You will see some letters pop up as we take a look at Scott Shepherd's interpretation of the Lumen numbering system. And so it will have its own advantages and disadvantages. And of course, one of the disadvantages is it's going to be more complex than what we just saw, because the one we just saw is about as easy it can possibly be. Totally effortless numbering. But You might find your squids and your jellyfish are not anywhere near close to one another. And if that's a disadvantage to you, then this might be a better choice. But that's, as far as I can tell, that's really the only disadvantage of this system. So, okay, come on back tomorrow, and we'll explore the Scott P. Shepper numbering system, which is an interpretation of the Lumen numbering system. Bye-bye for today.